The following video was brought to you by the members of the Mr. Sans official Discord server. Join today for some exclusive perks. Link in the description below.
While the big engines were shut up in the shed, Thomas and Edward ran the main line. Every day, they would greet each other as they passed by, taking it in turns pulling goods and passengers. There were fewer trains and fewer coaches, but the passengers didn't mind. They were glad to have any train at all. But since Thomas was helping out on the main line, he hadn't the time to run his branch line. The Fat Controller asked his new engine Percy to run the line for him. "I trust that you will do well," he said, "but be sure to listen carefully to Thomas's coaches. They know the line just as well as he does." Percy ran off to find Annie and Cloudbear in the carriage shed. "Peep peep, good morning," he whistled cheerfully. "I'm Percy, and I'll be your engine today." Annie and Cloudbear were delighted to meet Percy, and were keen to stretch their wheels. He was soon running nicely along the line. The coaches told him all he needed to know, and Percy was very gentle with them. "Do come along, we're right on time," Percy would sing. "We're coming along, there's plenty of time," the coaches would reply. Soon they reached the junction. Thomas was waiting with his train. "You took your time," fussed Thomas. "I hope you are careful with my coaches. I like to have them back in one piece." "Don't be so rude, Thomas," retorted Annie and Clarabelle. "Driver and guard have promised he would take care of us." Thomas felt sorry at once. But before he could reply, the guard's whistle blew. But as Thomas began out of the station, he suddenly remembered. "Don't forget to collect the milk," he warned. But it was no good. Poor Percy couldn't quite catch what Thomas had said. "Never mind," he thought. "I'll ask him later." They reached the top station with no trouble. Percy's driver had clambered down and got Percy ready for the return train. "Just a moment there, driver," said the station master as he ran up. "There's some trucks from the quarry bound for the junction. You must fetch them quickly. They cannot be delayed." Percy hadn't been told about a quarry, but not wanting to upset the Fat Controller, he did as he was told. By the time Percy had collected his trucks, it was time for him to leave. Percy ran round the coaches and started off as soon as the guard was ready. Come along," Percy said anxiously. Annie and Clarabelle tried to keep up, but they couldn't help but worry. By the time they reached the junction, Edward was already there. "Hello, Percy," greeted Edward. "Running a little late, are we? No worry, I'll take those trucks from you now." Edward looked along Percy's train. He blinked and looked again. "Has the dairy forgotten about the delivery this morning? Thomas usually brings it on his return run." Annie and Clarabelle gasped. "We've left the milk behind," they cried. Percy went pale. "What do we do?" "We'll have to fetch it later," replied his driver. "We cannot delay our passengers any further." As Edward left with the trucks, Percy puffed sadly away. Annie and Clarabelle tried to cheer him up, but Percy could only dread what Thomas would say when he finds out. That afternoon, Percy saw Thomas at the junction again. "Heard you had a bit of trouble with the milk this morning," he began sternly. Percy looked shamefully at his buffers. He looked back at Thomas, and to his surprise, Thomas was smiling. "Cheer up," he said. "We can't expect everything to go right on our first day. I remember when I had to take some cows to the market, when I realized I forgot the van back at the big station. The Vat Controller wasn't happy about it, he went on, chuckling. But my driver said that accidents happen, and we mustn't let silly little things like leaving something behind put us down. Percy blew a sigh of relief. He was glad Thomas wasn't cross. And both he, Annie, and Clarabelle promised to make sure that they remembered the milk next time.